Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today it is the beginning of June, so I will be doing my May 2021 wrap-up. This month I got through 6 novels, 1 novella, so for a total of 7 reads, and a lot of them were kind of in the 4 3-star range. Actually, I think all of them were in the 4 3-star range. I had no 2-star, thankfully no 1-star, but unfortunately no 5-star reads this month. So first up, I started with Autumn Bleeds into Winter by Jeff Strand. This book was recommended to me so many times on Reddit that I think I lost count. And it would always be recommended to me as like a coming of age novel that I have to read if I'm a fan of like Brian Keene's Ghouls, Stephen King's It, all the big ones. I think most recently somebody told me to read it after I read Roland Malfi's December Park, so I picked it up. This was a 3-star read for me. I'm not quite sure why this is considered a coming-of-age story. It did not feel like the typical format of like a group of kids combating something, overcoming it during like their summer vacation or whatnot. Like that's usually what I'm looking for when I read coming-of-age horror. That's my favorite subgenre in the horror genre. So that was what I wanted. This was not it. It does take place in Alaska, which is really, really cool. And it takes place in Alaska, not really in like the wilderness, like Ronald Malfi's Bone White, but more like actually just like growing up and living in like small town Alaska and like what that's like. And I thought that was really, really interesting. The author, Jeff Strand, really goes into like what it's like having such extreme seasons in Alaska and like times where it's always sunny and always dark. And he talks about what it's like when there's just hours and hours and hours of daylight, even into like the middle of the night, and then like very few hours of daylight during the day during the winter times. And I thought that was really cool and like just very nice to like casually just have in the book. But I'll read the back for you. It says, 1979, somebody has been abducting children in Fairbanks, Alaska. One of the victims was 14-year-old Curtis Black's best friend, Todd. Curtis saw it happen. He knows exactly who did it, but he can't prove that it was his neighbor, Gerald Martin. The authorities find no evidence of the crime. There's nothing they could do. So he's going to confront Mr. Martin himself, and this is just the beginning of the terrifying story. So yes, so this is a story about a kid who knows that there is a serial killer, he knows who the serial killer is, and kind of has like a standoff with the serial killer. And that's pretty much the whole story. And it's really interesting, and it's a little frustrating at the same time, because I feel like the main character, Curtis, just makes a lot of really dumb decisions over and over and over and over again. And yes, you could say, well, he's like a teenager and he's pretty juvenile and like this is his coming of age story, but there are some decisions that he makes where I'm just like, self-preservation alone should tell you not to ever do some of the stuff that he does, and he does so continuously. And I just found this book really, really frustrating because I just couldn't believe that this character would act this way and make these decisions to push the plot forward. And the fact that he was, I mean, there's at least one other primary character besides Curtis and the serial killer that play a pivotal role, but beyond that, it was just like 3 characters, and for the most part, it's just all told through Curtis and like his fear and his thought process, and I just didn't vibe with it that much. I really wanted to, but I didn't. And it didn't really feel like a coming-of-age story to me. I mean, I guess technically it is, but not in the way I wanted it to be. So this is fine. I'm not going to like tell anybody not to read it, but it definitely just wasn't what I was expecting, and I think that took me off guard. Next up was Devil's Creek by Todd Keisling. Last month I read Scanlines by Todd Keisling and was super, super, super impressed with it. So I really wanted to read Devil's Creek because this book has been talked about so often since it came out. I believe it came out in 2020. And it is about cults, which is really cool. And surprise, this is a 4-star read of a very blatantly cosmic horror book. I actually really, really liked this. I usually hate cosmic horror, but from the very, very, very beginning, it's like cosmic horror. This is cosmic horror. This is the cosmic horror we will be using, and this is how we're going to use cosmic horror, which I like a lot more than like, at the end, cosmic horror comes in to like change the course of the whole story and like doom and annihilation and whatever. Like, I hate that type of cosmic horror. So the fact that I knew from the beginning this is going to be heavily, heavily, heavily cosmic horror, I was like, okay, I'm on board with this. Let's see how they do it. So let me read it to you. It says, give us that old-time religion. About 15 miles west of Stafford, Kentucky lies Devil's Creek. According to local legend, there used to be a church out there, home to the Lord's Church of Holy Voices, a death cult where Jacob mastered to preach the gospel of a nameless God. And like most legends, there's truth buried among the roots and bones. In 1983, the church burned down following a mass suicide. Among the survivors were Jacob's 6 children and their grandparents, who banded together to defy their former minister. Dubbed the Stowford Six, these children grew up amid scrutiny and ridicule, but their infamy has faded over the last 30 years. Now their ordeal is all but forgotten, and Jacob Masters is nothing more than a scary story told around campfires. For Jack Tremblay, one of the 6, memories of that fateful night have fueled a successful art career and a lifetime of nightmares. When his grandmother Imogen dies, Jack returns to Stowford to settle her estate. What he finds waiting for him are secrets Imogen kept in his youth, secrets about his father and the church, secrets that can no longer stay buried. The roots of Jacob's buried God run deep, and within the heart of Devil's Creek, something is beginning to start. So I really enjoyed this book. There were a couple topics that are heavily touched upon in this book that are topics that are typically not really okay with me. I thought they were handled fairly well, and they were in there to serve a purpose of the plot. And a lot of times these types of topics are things that actually do happen in cults, so I was okay reading it. This is not a 5-star read because I don't like reading about certain topics like that. A lot of stuff that has to deal with like the exploitation of children. But that was like really my only real issue with this book. I really enjoyed it. I liked the characters. I loved how they were all connected. I loved getting to see how 6 kids who went through this traumatic event responded in so many different ways. I thought this was really well done. I don't know if I liked it as much as Scanlines. I really loved Scanlines, but I thought this was really fun. If you are into like true crime and cults and you know a lot about like true crimey cults, I think you'll really appreciate this book because it does take from a lot of cults that have existed in prior times. So this was a really fun one. Again, it is very cosmic horror-y, but I enjoyed it, and I usually don't like cosmic horror, so you've been warned with that. Third, I read The Whispering Dead by Darcy Coates. This is Darcy Coates' latest novel. It just came out on May 4th. I have a full in-depth review of this on my channel, so I won't go super into it, but I will read the back for you. It says, she hears them whispering, homeless, hunted, and desperate to escape a bitter storm. Kira takes refuge in an abandoned groundskeeper's cottage. Tucked away at the edge of a cemetery, it's surrounded on all sides by gravestones, some recent, some hundreds of years old, all suffering from neglect. And in the darkness, she can hear the unquiet dead whispering. The cemetery is alive with faint spectral shapes led by a woman who died before her time. And Kira, the only person who can see her, has become her new target. Determined to help put the ghost to rest, Kira digs into the spirit's past life with the help of unlikely new friends and discovers a history of deception, ill-fated love, and murder. But the past is not as simple as it seems, and Kira's time is running out. Tangled in a dangerous web, she has to find a way to free the spirit, even if it means offering her own life in return. I really liked this book. I'm a huge Darcy Coates fan. In the way that I like that she writes cozy horror, I never read a Darcy Coates book because I think I'm going to be scared. I read it because I want to read something fun and kind of whimsical, but still on like the scary side. I think this book kind of hits all of these notches. This is the first book of the Gravekeeper series that Darcy Coates is starting, and I thought it was really fun. I thought the characters were all extremely likable. The plot was interesting. Again, it's not very scary, and this does kind of borderline on like almost like murder mystery, but I did really enjoy this. 4-star read for me. Darcy Coates has yet to get a 5-star rating from me, but she does have some really strong books out there. Alright, fourth was Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. I have a very interesting relationship with Stephen Graham Jones's writing. As some of you may know, I absolutely loved his upcoming novel, My Heart is a Chainsaw. I got an ARC of that. I have a full spoiler-free review of that on my channel, and I thought it was brilliant. Prior to that, I had read The Only Good Indians and Night of the Mannequins. Both books I was so not a fan of. I still can't believe that they have won like tons of awards. They just won the Bram Stoker Awards for like novella and novel of 2020, and totally highly praised. Couldn't stand those books. But I did want to read Mongrels because I love werewolves, and I really wanted to see what else Stephen Graham Jones has written, because now that I know that I really liked My Heart is a Chainsaw, I kind of wanted to give him a wider chance. This book was interesting. I really hated the first like 75% of this book. I saw somewhere somebody say that this book is almost written like a bunch of short stories about werewolves all together, and that's really how it felt. It's pretty much just a snapshot after snapshot after snapshot of our main character's life as he lives with a family of werewolves. And that's pretty much it. And there's pretty much no plot until like the last 50 pages. But once you get to those last 50 pages, I actually really liked and appreciated the plot. And a lot of the information that you get from the very beginning up to those last 50 pages really serve to explain the plot and what's happening and why it's happening the way it's happening. I just wish the majority of the book had the same energy as the last 50 pages of this book. I think werewolf lore is definitely something that can be up to interpretation. There's no like grand master text, but I don't necessarily know if I agree with Stephen Graham Jones's particular choices on werewolf lore. Some of it I found a little questionable or too difficult to believe or strange. It's totally a metaphor though for like, I don't want to say racism in America, but like coming from a different culture in America. So I understand why he did certain things. But I didn't hate this book. I didn't love this book. I did really like those last 50 pages. But I really did not like all the pages that led up to it. So I don't know. I think my thought process with Stephen Graham Jones is I'm just going to start reading his new, like, upcoming releases. I'm not going to go through his back catalog because I feel like me and his back catalog don't tend to like each other. But I'll read the back really quickly for you. He was born an outsider like the rest of his family. Poor yet resilient. He lives in the shadows with his Aunt Libby and Uncle Darren, folk who stubbornly make their way in a society that does not understand or want them. They are mongrels, mixed blood, neither this nor that. The boy at the center of Mongrels must decide if he belongs on the road with his aunt and uncle, or if he fits with the people on the other side of the tracks. For 10 years, he and his family have lived a life of late-night exits and narrow escapes, always on the move across the South to stay one step ahead of the law. But the time is drawing near when Darren and Libby will finally know if their nephew is like them or not. And the close calls they've been running from for so long are catching up fast now. Everything is about to change. So yeah, this was a 3-star read from me. I don't know. There was a couple plot holes in this that I couldn't get past. And like, I was just reminded about reading it on the back. Like, they keep migrating through the South and they're like, oh crap, like it's too soon to go back to this state, but we have nowhere else to go. I'm like, go north. Like, I don't understand why they just stay in the South for the whole book. That's just like not explained to me. And they're like running out of states. And I'm like, go north. Like, I think that the most north they go is like North Carolina, and I'm just like, go to Virginia, come on, just go. But whatever, that's fine. So then next up was Dementia by Russell Coy. This is a novella I received in my May 2021 Nightworms. I do have an unboxing video on that. I'll link it up above. This was interesting. This book didn't work as a short novella. This book would have worked way better as a full-on novel. I'll read what it's about really quickly so you guys get a little bit of a sense. After giving up on his dream of being a published writer, Chris is plagued by a series of nightmarish visions of grotesque creatures. As the visions manifest with greater frequency, they start targeting his young daughter. They are finding their way into his world, and only he can fight them. Chris must uncover the truth about his connection to the strange, sadistic realm and plunge headfirst into the unknown if he wants to save his daughter and himself. So yeah, this book was fine. It very much is inspired very heavily by like the Cenobites in Hellraiser, like almost to a point that I was like, not that they're stealing from it, but a lot of the scenes I felt like were straight up from Hellraiser. And Russell Coy really employs a lot of these like kind of grotesque cosmic horror creatures that keep appearing. The problem is he keeps like shoving these creatures down your throat. Like, you'll read a full paragraph that describes one creature and then the following paragraph is another creature. And when you have these cosmic beings, it's so hard to like fully visualize them in your head that to just jump from paragraph to description of like what these beings look like felt really overwhelming to me. And then I never got to like actually digest what each character looked like because they were just constantly being thrown at me. And I really would have liked it if he had just expanded this, made it way longer, spent more time on the plot and the description, because the plot is actually kind of cool. And I did enjoy what it was. I just didn't think it worked in this short format. He also needs his editor to really check what he's doing with this. He literally has like 5 pages where he calls one character by a completely different name. And I was so confused until I realized that it was just the same character with a totally different name. And I have to say that the placement of where this happens actually made me think that something else was happening in the story. So yeah, so there were some issues here. Didn't hate it. It's like 100 pages. Like, it's super easy to read. And if you're a fan of Hellraiser, you'll probably really like this because it definitely draws a lot upon it. But I don't know, wasn't a huge fan. The title doesn't make sense to me. I don't really get the dementia thing, but I don't know. This is a 3-star read for me. It's cute. It's like Cenobite fan fiction, kind of done okay. So there you go. All right, I got 2 more for you. Next up is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I read this book over the course of the last 2 months. I have a full video coming out very soon, fully dissecting this novel, so I'm just gonna tell you, this was a 3-star read for me. This is my second attempt at reading it. I finally finished it this time. Heathcliff is a horrible person. Catherine is a pretty horrible person. I don't understand the appeal of this. The more I dissected this book, the more I kind of got it, the more I saw like the actual themes and tones and the messages that Emily Bronte was going for. I really wish that this story had more ghosts. There's like no ghosts. I mean, there's like ghosts, but then there's like no ghosts. I don't know. This had all unlikable characters. This was difficult to read. This was annoying to read. I'm happy I read it. I'm happy I read it. I think people should read this book. Read this book knowing this is a book about awful people doing awful things and not a love story, and I think you'll be okay. Again, I have like a 20-minute video coming out where I talk all about how I felt about this book, so I'm not gonna go into it now, but this was a 3-star read for me. I'll read the back in case you aren't sure what the story is about. So it says, Lockwood, the new tenant of Thrushcross Grange on the bleak Yorkshire moors, is forced to seek shelter one night at Wuthering Heights, the home of his landlord. There he discovers the history of the tempestuous events that took place years before, of the intense passion between the foundling Heathcliff and Catherine Earnshaw, and her betrayal of him. As Heathcliff's bitterness and vengeance is now visited upon the next generation, their innocent heirs must struggle to escape the legacy of the past. There you go. Horrible people doing horrible things to each other. The end. Alright, and then last but not least, I read The Switch House by Tim Meyer. I will be honest, this edition has like 4 short stories in the back of it. I just didn't read it because I wasn't in the mood to read short stories this month. But yeah, so I read this. I read this because I read Tim Meyer's other novel, Paradise Club, from earlier this year, and his collaboration with Chad Lutzke called Wormwood in the last couple months, and I loved both of them, so I really wanted to read this one. This is great. This is, I thought this was going to be a cosmic horror story because of like the premise and the tentacles and stuff. It's not really. Like, I definitely can see where people could argue it's cosmic horror, but I didn't really think it was. I'll read the back really quickly. It says, Congratulations, you've won a role on Let's Switch Houses. Your life is going to change, we promise. Your dreams will come true. Everything you've ever wanted, we have it. This is a chance of a lifetime. Come inside. Switch with us. Angela and Terry return home after several grueling months of filming the popular television show Let's Switch Houses, only to find their residence in ruin. Sure, the decor and framed photographs are the same, the color of the walls hasn't changed, the furniture sits unmoved, but something is off. Their quiet New Jersey home feels tainted. Angela can sense it, crawling inside her, infecting her mind, poisoning her thoughts. Then the nightmares begin. Awful, lucid visions that cause her to question her own reality. What happened at 44 Trenton Road while she was gone? Just what did she do? That bizarre woman who claims she can communicate with the beyond? Who is she exactly? Angela aims to find out, but the further she investigates, the deeper into madness she descends. How far will she travel before she loses the trail of clues? Or worse, before she loses her mind? So yeah, this was an interesting book. It definitely went in a direction I didn't think it was going to go. It's got a lot of really crazy, amped up scenes. It's got some really interesting twists as well in it. I really liked Tim Meyer's writing. I didn't love this book as much as Paradise Club. I thought Paradise Club was way more straightforward and way more fun, and this is nowhere near as like visceral as Wormwood. But this is a really fun spin on like a haunted house story. And I guess instead of cosmic horror, I would say that like there's witchcraft pretty heavily involved in this. I don't know. I just really liked it. I'm not quite sure how to categorize it because it's so strange, but this was really fun. 4-star read for me for sure. And if you've never checked out Tim Meyer's work, I definitely check him out. I feel like this indie under the radar writer, and he really shouldn't be. He's phenomenal. So definitely check this out. I was thoroughly impressed with that. So yeah, those were the 7 reads that I had for you guys of May of 2021. Yeah, and I'm actually really happy with that stack. It was a lot of 3-4-star reads, so all enjoyable reads for the most part. Even Wuthering Heights, like the more I think about it, the more I'm like really happy that I read it. So we'll just leave it at that for now. But yeah, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, and if you enjoy these videos, hit that like and subscribe button down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Mwah.